It's a pleasure to announce we move on to a wonderful topic, looking to the foreign policy of Germany especially. The panel title is Zeitenwende in Germany and its impact for a stronger Europe. And it's my pleasure to be introducing on stage Ms. Liliana Popescu, the director of the Diplomatic Institute in Romania, who will be wonderfully moderating the next panel session. Ms. Popescu, thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here. It's the first time I'm moderating in this framework a panel, and it's not any kind of panel, a special panel. I think that many of the participants were waiting for this discussion. The title was announced. Let me invite the speakers. Mrs. Deputy Minister Simona Cojocaru, Deputy Minister in the Ministry of Romanian National Defense. Welcome and thank you for participating. His Excellency Dr. Per Gebauer, Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Romania. Mr. Christos Katsoulis, Director, Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, Regional Office for Cooperation and Peace in Europe in Vienna. And my counterpart in Latvia, Karlis Bukovski, Director of the Latvian Institute of International Affairs in Riga. I will sit down just to introduce the topic. And I have to say that apart from the description that you all have in your papers or on the telephone, I thought of kind of empathizing with Germany and emphasize what I believe that happened in the beginning of this war, of this aggression of Russia against Ukraine. And I think that Germany had to take in a lot. And I wrote down a few, I identified 7 items. First of all, it was clear after the aggression on the 24th of February 2022 that Russia is an enemy. So that was a big thing to swallow after a long period of time in which Germany tried to be civil, friendly, make business with Russia. The challenge of getting involved militarily, which is main part of the Zeitenwende. Then this turning point in the EU as a geopolitical actor, because this aggression from Russia determined this repositioning of the European Union. Then, of course, what are we going to do with Eastern Europe, with Central Eastern Europe, the enlargement issue? It was the first time that the barrier, the Russian barrier to inviting Moldova, Ukraine, Georgia was removed. Then there is this another, the 5th in my list, the China challenge, which is an economic challenge not only for the US but also for the European Union. And we know that Germany is the economic engine of the European Union. I put it like that. You may challenge me, of course. Then there is a matter of European trust in Germany. How much can we trust Germany in this new position, in this turning point? And not least, I would say the 7th element I identified, the challenge of internal democracy in Germany and how to capacitate maybe the population, the German citizens, to make a shift in their view, in their positioning. And I was talking with our distinguished guests and saying that I'm looking forward to listening to a podcast which is specifically focused on the German strategic culture and the change in German strategic culture. And we know that it's more difficult, it takes time to change this culture. So in this note, I would like, sorry for, maybe I'm not well positioned. I'm going to change my position. Sorry about that, I didn't realize. On this note, I would like to invite Deputy Minister Simona Cojocaru to take the floor and address a few words on this topic, of course.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really delighted to be here in this panel. Thank you for inviting me. Aspen GMF Forum is such an exceptional venue. And I have to say from the start how important this panel is today, because we have received some very important news from Berlin, and the ambassador here already mentioned previously about this, so I will start with this. Germany's announcement regarding the contribution to Romania's deterrence and defense, air policing. 4 Eurofighters are going to join air policing end of November, so we are really appreciating this coming from Berlin. So this is only a proof that Germany is stepping in to this huge effort here on the eastern flank related to deterrence and defense. The second is that Secretary General Stoltenberg was yesterday and today in Berlin, having talks with Chancellor Scholz, with the Minister of Defense Pistorius, and we have followed a lot the visit, very, very important one. And as Secretary Stoltenberg said yesterday, Germany is making a huge contribution to our shared security. And thirdly, let me say from the beginning that also just yesterday, we saluted the release of German Defense Policy Guidelines 2023. So I'm absolutely happy to be on this stage this Friday afternoon to talk about Zeitenwende and Germany new defense and security policy. So very much important. Zeitenwende is here, Zeitenwende is happening. And this is indeed a dramatic change in the Germany security and defense policy. This is absolutely clear. And I would like also to say that in our view, yes, this is a turning point. And in a famous speech by Chancellor Scholz, related to the fact that Europe is our future, he mentioned very clearly, he stated very clearly that the center of gravity is moving eastward in Europe. And that Germany is adopting new roles, such one as the bridge builder. I kept into my mind this expression. It's absolutely very, very relevant today. Germany is a bridge builder in European security, a bridge builder in the transatlantic link, and also in the defense, which is absolutely very, very much important. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, that Zeitenwende is an answer, if you like, an adaptation to the world we are living in today, which, needless to say, is very much complex, very much turbulent. It's a turmoil, and we are facing a new geostrategic context. And I think what is very much important is that Zeitenwende, because we are talking about, as I said, a new approach in German security and defense policies, Zeitenwende has the merit, I think, primarily of separating German approach to international security between what was before and what came after 24th of February. This is absolutely very much important. And even more important, and I'm very much eager to learn from the other distinguished panelists here, I think is the implicit admission that the idea of having Russia as a partner in building European security was a mistake. So this is also very, very important. But as any adaptation process, this is not a one-off event in time. So it takes time. It should be enduring. It should be looking forward to the future. And I think this is not just a correction of previous mistakes. I think this is about an in-depth transformation of Germany's security and defense policies. And by the way, Germany published also very recently, back in June, a national security strategy, which is a premiere, and we have to be very much aware about this. This is a premiere. And I think, if you like, the motto of the leitmotif of the national security strategy of Germany today is that Germany should be, what I said earlier on, a bridge builder. This is absolutely very, very much important. Germany took also a very active approach in relation with partners, with partnership. Look how importantly Germany supported and is supporting Ukraine. Secretary Stoltenberg said yesterday that Germany is, next to US, one of the most important supporters of Ukraine right now in terms of military donations and other equipment. So I think that since we are undergoing the Russian war of aggression in Ukraine, actually, I have to say that all of us, we are having our own Zeitenwende. And I think Germany is leading by example, which is very, very much important. And the massive change in allotting funds for defense budget is only by the proof that Germany, again, is on board, is very much ready to contribute, and is about, to lead by example. And Germany indeed should become a guarantor of European security today, which is also very, very much important. There are still persistent questions in relation with Zeitenwende, but I think we have to listen right now also the other speakers. I have many points in relation with Zeitenwende, ambassador and distinguished panelists. Again, a wonderful, an exceptional day to speak about Germany. It's an amazing coincidence, if you like, this Friday, and I'm over now. Please.
I very much like the enthusiasm of Deputy Minister Kossokaru. Thank you very much for the points you made. Indeed, it's very timely. It was a coincidence or not? Let me invite now Ambassador, His Excellency, Dr. Per Gebauer, to address a few points.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Simona, fellow panelists. I'd love to say that, of course, it was the timing, particularly for this event, that we decided to send the Eurofighters to Romania. But I have to admit, despite the relevance and the wonderful impact this forum had, that, of course, the main reason is that we sensed in these times of threats, of crisis, we need to align with one another even more. We need to build bridges. And Romania, being such an outstanding ally and partner in these difficult days, deserves our help when it's needed. The initiative to send Eurofighters now, and we will continue to do so also in the years to come, obviously on a regular basis, as we have done in the beginning of the war, but to sort of spontaneously said, okay, we'll fill one gap, was because Romania is threatened, as we all know, being a country right next to Ukraine, right next to this Russian war of aggression that we are facing. And given the recent drone incidents that particularly proved the vulnerability and the closeness of Romania, it was Germany's decision to send the Eurofighters to show our support. They've also come with an anti-drone system, primarily to protect the German contingent, but of course this is also meant as an idea potentially where we can cooperate with Romania in the future. And we are also in talks about further support programs when it comes to munition and other parts. So a lot is going on. Again, it's first of all a sign of our solidarity with the eastern flank countries that are directly affected, and in particular with Romania, whom we can always rely on. Zeitenwende, this turning point in history, indeed describes, first of all, the fact that the Russian aggression was a turning point in history, and which led to the need for a turning point in German policy. We have heard already a few aspects of what this entails. In Germany, they have started to improve our strategy when it comes to the new threats. Liliana, you have rightly referred to it, and you have also referred to the national security strategy, which was adopted in summer, which for the first time brings with it a comprehensive security approach and security term, in a sense that it's not only the military threats we are facing a number of hybrid threats, cyber, when it comes to critical infrastructure. We've seen what's happening in the Baltic Sea, to pipelines, to interconnectors. So the threats are manifold. Fake news is another one. So we also need to shape a security answer which is broader, which also entails a better integrated approach in Germany. So it's not only the Ministry of Defense, obviously, that is dealing with security questions, but all ministries, the federal states, the civil society. So it's an integrated approach, and the same is true when it comes to our international partnerships, where we know security in Germany can only be guaranteed in cooperation, in partnership with our partners and allies in the EU and NATO in particular. So this is, first of all, one element. Of course, a key part of security is, in these days, to be militarily apt to defend against the threats we are all facing. The Russian war of aggression proves this every day, how necessary this is. So one key element, of course, was the first ever pledge to say we'll go to 2% GDP defense spending. Germany has been below 1.5 for many years, so it's a major step. We use for that not only the regular budget, but also, as you've certainly heard, the 100 billion special defense fund money. And we will, the Chancellor has just confirmed it yesterday when he met Secretary General Stoltenberg in Berlin in 2024, for the first time we will fulfill this target. Why not already in 2023? I think there's a simple reason for that. If you want to spend more, you need to have something to spend the money on. If you decide to buy tanks today, you won't have the tank tomorrow and pay it tomorrow. It takes time until it is produced, it's ordered, tendered, ordered, produced. So there's a bit of a time left there. But out of the 100 billion euro special fund, just to give you an idea, out of this 100 billion, 2/3, 66 billion, are already contracted. So we have already signed, by the end of the year, we'll have signed contracts for 2/3 of this special fund. So this shows where we are heading. It's also confirmed by our Chancellor, I'm just quoting it from yesterday, saying this is not a thing for the next 2 or 3 years. It will be there, we'll spend 2% in the next 20 years, basically, in the 20s and 30s of this century, because we know you cannot really become able to defend yourself if you're just looking short term. It has been confirmed by the Minister of Defense yesterday. Germany considers itself to be the backbone of European defense. So these are very strong commitments, I feel, and I'm very optimistic, and I fully trust in the credibility, and that Europe can rely on us, that alliance can rely on us, and Germany will do its part. Apart from these elements within Germany, so to speak, of course, Zeitenwende also means that we are more present, more active in the field of deterrence and defense of our allied territory. The commitment to defend every single inch of our territory is not only valid, it's necessary, and it will be fulfilled. Germany is, as you've rightly pointed out, both of you, now the second largest donor of military aid to Ukraine. I know we have drawn a bit of criticism in the beginning of the war as to Germany not doing enough. I think this has changed from my perspective, also when it comes to the Ukrainians themselves, that are greatly appreciative of the fact that Germany has sent battle tanks, other tanks, armored vehicles, has done a great deal when it comes to air defense, which is crucial for Ukraine. As you know, we have delivered Patriot system, we have delivered I think at least 3 complete Iris-T SLM systems, which are crucial in defending against attacks on critical infrastructure in Ukraine. Many, many other aspects, artillery, logistics. So the full picture, the full board being delivered to Ukraine. We have been very active together with all our EU partners in training the Ukrainian army in the framework of the EU training mission for Ukraine. Apart from that angle, support for Ukraine, we are very much active in the protection of the eastern flank of our NATO territory. You've rightly pointed out our presence in the air policing gives proof to that. We are, I think, the first country that has announced that it will enlarge the battle group. You have a number of battle groups in all the bordering countries at the eastern flank, led by other European nations. We are the framework nation for Lithuania, for the battle group in Lithuania. We are the first European country to say, okay, we promise to beef up the capacity there to a full brigade size. This is a great effort. We're talking about 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 soldiers for a brigade. We're on the way to build up there. Germany is very active when it comes to filling the new regional plans and the new NATO strategy. You know, in Vilnius at the summit, NATO has dramatically shifted its approach given the new threats. And of course, has adopted new plans how to defend itself against a potential attack. But of course, you now need to fill these plans also with personnel. It's one thing to just write on paper, that's what we're going to do, but you need nations that are also committing their troops to the protection of the Allied territory. Germany is also in the lead there and doing its part. Same is true for an EU element, which was newly installed, EU being a global actor, the rapid deployment capacity, where also Germany is committing to send its troops. So these are just a few elements to show you that how we feel we live up to this promise that we've given ourselves of a turning point also in our policy. I'll leave it with that, and I'm happy to engage further on the various points. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this presentation, which pinpointed the main elements that, in your view, the Zeitenwende means up to this point. Let me pass on the floor to Mr. Christos Katsioulis, the Regional Director of Friedrich Ebert Stiftung in Vienna.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the invitation. I'll start pouring a bit of water in the very sweet wine we heard until now by explaining a little bit the challenges that are a part of this Zeitenwende as well. Because what the ambassador just described with so many very vivid and clear examples is an element of a strategy of Germany to rebuild trust and rebuild credibility. You mentioned that credibility was an issue at the very beginning of the war, and we all remember after the Russian unprovoked attack on Ukraine, too little, too late, and an uncertainty if the German government will really come and fulfill what it has promised in this speech of Olaf Scholz. And there are reasons for that. One reason is when you hear about German mobility, you think of something that the ambassador and I know both from the region we come from, very fast cars, Porsche and Mercedes. German politics is nothing like that. German politics is like a freight ship. If you want to turn it, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. So what we see is really a changing here. And the changing goes into the party system. We are working closely with the party of the Social Democrats and the Chancellor. And you might have heard that there were people inside the party a bit critical on this Zeitenwende, on the new focus on military in Germany. And that has changed. We've seen it inside the parliamentary group. People start perceiving Russia clearly as a threat. They start agreeing to 2% of the GDP for for the defense budget. All these measures were unthinkable before. And the quotes of Olaf Scholz that the minister and the ambassador made came from the so-called Bundeswehrtagung, which is a conference of the German Bundeswehr. And I think Olaf Scholz is the first chancellor for 15 years who visited this conference and talked there. This is a change. And to quote something from the new defense guidelines that were published yesterday, there's a word in there most Germans would have cringed if they read it 2 years ago, kriegstüchtig, which means you're able for war. And the Bundeswehr was never thought of as an army to fight. It was an army to be there, so we would never have any war. So this is a change taking place. And to add a third element here, the population is also changing. The perceptions, and we have made polls before the war and after the start of the war, are clearly changing. Russia is now perceived as a threat. That wasn't the case before. The defense budget is perceived as being necessary. The support of Ukraine is supported by more than 60% of the German population, but it still takes time. And it will take even more time in 2026, 2027, when these 100 billion of the Special Defense Fund will not be available anymore, because that means that we will spend 25 to 30 billion euros per year more on defense. And we don't know at the moment where this money will come from. It might come from the social budget. So the German population until now has felt some of the repercussions of the war, but not many of them, and not very hard ones. And when we have the discussion, will we spend on defense, will we spend on social affairs, then it will be the litmus test for this Zeitenwende. So it's very early stages. We have seen a lot of movement. We see that German credibility is building up again, that partners perceive us more and more as a part, an integral part of European security. But the ambassador also mentioned the backbone of European security, and I'll end with that because I'm very interested if Carlis perceives it as that. Would our partners, especially in the Baltics, in Poland, here in Romania, agree that this is a backbone they can rely on? I think we have still a little work to do so that they answer this enthusiastically and emphatically with a yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for nuancing and showing some hidden aspects that maybe we are not thinking of, coming from the German society, from the army, and so on and so forth. Let me now give the floor to Karlis Bukovskis, my homologue from Latvia, please.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. And if Christos added water, I'm going to add a lemon maybe to this, but not in order to cause any diplomatic strife or anything like this. From the Baltic perspective, as I was asked to comment on the Baltic perspective on the German Zeitenwende, then the short answer would be that if you want peace, prepare for war. But why at snail's pace? And that has been the issue after the announcement of the Zeitenwende last year, 3 days after the Russian accelerated attack on Ukraine, full-scale attack on Ukraine, and then we have moments of prolonged periods of inactivity, of discussions, which of course some people in the Baltic states, including on the highest political level, were not understanding fully what's going on, why is it happening. In this situation, Zeitenwende was absolutely welcomed in the Baltic states, because in this case it showed that there's a clear understanding in Germany finally as well who and what Russia is. So in this case that was of course very important. But then came the disappointment with the Leopards and deliveries of the weapons and discussions, domestic discussions in Germany, because in the Baltic states for us this was an immediate necessity. That we saw it just exactly like the Ukrainians. This is an immediate necessity. They need weapons. Yes, they need weapons. We were supplying our weapons at one point basically emptying all of our, well, not that big, but still existing military capacities. And then came the new hope this year, of course, with the announcement of the brigade, increase from a battalion to a brigade scale of participation of Germans in the forward presence group in Lithuania. And that, of course, has to be implemented in 2026, well, finished until 2028. And that's a new hope. This is actually the question which has been constantly there. One thing is announcing Zeitenwende, the other thing is that where are the boots on the ground? That literally has been the phrase which has been used. It's a historical change not only for Germany, it's also a historical change for in the mindset also for the Baltic countries, right? It goes both ways. And so it has been somewhat this emotional roller coaster, if I may say. And the idea is, of course, that in modern history, if you look at the Baltic attitudes towards Germany, or Germany's attitudes towards the Baltic states, then it hasn't been always, as clear and one-sided and unanimous as we are used to think and look, for instance, at the United States of America. In the Baltic case, United States of America absolutely is a strategic partner, military, politically. Germany is economically. That is also true, and this is essential. But for Germany to take the place of the United States, it's not necessarily on our primarily agenda. We have to see first and how the situation is developing. Because the reason is very simple, because if you look back at the different chancellors, then Kohl was rather ambiguous, but pro-Baltic. Baltic independence and Baltic withdrawal of the Russian troops, and also kind of our membership in the European Union and NATO. Then came Schröder, which of course was pro-Kremlin, and for us was, that was a tricky moment, and I believe also in Germany he's still considered a very tricky moment, well, even now. And then came Merkel with vague but generally pro-Baltic approach, in spite of the fact that there were always this deals with Russia and trying to understand Russia, and there were complications in the form of Nord Stream, for instance, which we always saw as a problematic moment, but Germany kept pushing until basically Scholz abolished this. And Scholz's position now currently aligns with the Baltic position, aligns with the US position largely, but because of this history, and also because of, well, very unfortunate history between Russia and Germany in history in general, in older history, well, there is this small devil sitting and whispering that, good, Germans are with us, but 100%? Can we rely on that? Can we trust that? 95%? Yes, absolutely. But those 5%, this grain of small distrust because of this indecisiveness and mixed signals that have been coming out, of course, is causing this natural sentiment of, yes, Germans are with us. Yes. Yes, that's basically, I'm trying to emotionally show you how this general understanding is. And to finalize, Minister Pistorius has been literally rallying German population, right? If in this case, if you want to avoid war, you have to start preparing for war. And this, of course, goes along with our understanding how Russia should be treated, unfortunately, at this moment in history, because this is the Kremlin's policies. These are the policies that they have chosen, violent and which lead to a modern foreign and security policy, and violence that is pushing them and marginalizing them in the international community and in world's history as well. But in this case, that's the most important element in this case. And to finish this, I'm going to finish with a Russian saying, which I'm kind of translating this, is that the one who safeguards himself is also safeguarded by God. That's a Russian saying. And I think to a large extent, this is a mentality that exists in the Baltic states very strongly nowadays. And I think it should also still be increased in case of Germany. This is somewhat, should be the underlying idea of the Zeitenwende. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your view, which is kind of at the end of a continuum. I started with empathy, and then it went into a little bit of distrust there. So let me first of all, we have a participant who would like to ask a question coming from London, from King's College.
The ambassador for his characteristically polished, comprehensive presentation. But can I follow this theme of sympathetic skepticism? If the rest of Europe is somewhat questioning whether it is possible to believe in Germany now as the backbone of European deterrence, what would be the checklist of tests for this? Why, for example, was the Eurofighter not delivered earlier? Why does Germany not agree, as I understand it, to provide Taurus long-range missiles? And why has the word Schulzing, which is connected with my own name, so I'm quite interested, become, as I understand it in German, a synonym for equivocation and delay?
Thank you. I think when it comes to the mistrust that we've sort of heard, this 5% of can we really rely on Germany, or the terms you refer to, I think one element, allow me to say, I think Germany being the biggest country in the EU and the economically strongest country will always be eyed a bit differently than other countries. I think a lot of countries, many countries have done much less, but nobody would really take this up with them, right? So Germany being always eyed particularly close has a lot of responsibility. We want to live up to that. So whatever I say, whatever we say, will obviously not do away with whatever mistrust or skepticism might still be there. It's the deeds that in the end will show how reliable Germany is. I'm very optimistic that we will show that we are reliable and trustworthy. Christoph has rightly phrased that German politics might be not a speedboat, but more a freight tanker, sort of taking a long time to shift. But once it's on track, that's the other part of a tanker, it just will continuously to go that direction. So I believe the question, the litmus test will be sort of later on. If we meet again in 5 years, we can then again talk whether Germany has lived up to its reputation. But again, I feel that we have at least the feeling that there has been a continuous shift in perception of Germany from the beginning of the war, where Germany was indeed slow in building up its military capacity, to where we are right now. The most relevant feedback we get from our perspective is the one from our Ukrainian partners and friends, because they are the ones fighting the war. So there has been a dramatic or very significant shift in skepticism and not being happy with Germany, to Germany now being acknowledged as a key partner and supporter. So this is always, something where we feel, okay, I think we're on a good track. There are many aspects one has to consider when taking a political decision about war and peace. And I think this is in particularly true for Germany, having the brutal and bloody history. Germany has sort of spread war for the number of times. So I think it's, first of all, a positive note that Germany, after the Second World War, has decided to never again, and to let's always be very, very hesitant when it comes to being militarily active. Let's concentrate on the economy. Let's concentrate on humanitarian aid, development aid. So now, of course, there has been a shift, and there must have been a shift because of the situation that we are facing. But this might be a bit of an explanation why we are not always at the forefront of saying, let's go in and let's do this or that. The communication is a second angle. I think there are other political leaders that managed during the war in a, I dare say, fascinating way to prove themselves to be the best and the strongest supporters of Ukraine, while if you look at numbers, well, maybe it wasn't that much. While maybe for Germany it was a tiny bit the different way around, right? That Scholz is not the one, Chancellor Scholz is not a person who stands up and rocks the stage. He's sort of concentrates on what can I do, and things take a while in Germany. Yes, that's true, but I have a slightly different take on that, on the question of has this been something to criticize, or is it a phenomenon, a track that just things are taking time, and we are where we are right now, and that has to be appreciated. But thanks for your openness in this regard.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. So we need to look at deeds, not at words. And this is a big contrast between Germany and our eastern neighbors, Russia, who are playing with words and playing with minds and playing with ideas and with disinformation, so on and so forth. So accent on deeds is really refreshing in an environment full of words and other deceiving things. So we have another distinguished participant who would like to ask a question, please.
Good evening, distinguished panelists. It is obvious that Germany is becoming again one of the most important security actors in the world. Is the second military provider for Ukraine after the United States of America. Is the number one from Europe, long before United Kingdom. Historically speaking, Germany was always interested in its eastern vicinity. We all maybe know what is Ostopolitik. Additionally, I noticed that Germany increased military exports to Israel. The figures are 10 times greater than the ones from 2022. And I think we both agreed yesterday, Mr. Ambassador, when we talked about Elie Wiesel's study tour, that Europe must support Israel in their fight against Hamas because terrorism and that anti-Semitism are like cancer. Now I want to come back to the wider Black Sea region and I will address you the question. Ukraine has 7 neighbors. 2 of them are hostile, Russia and Belarus. One of them, Hungary, is somewhere between hostile and neutral. And I think Slovakia entered in the same boat. Because we saw Prime Minister Fico stopped the military aid for Ukraine. Now there are 3 more neighbors, Poland, which regionally speaking is as important for Ukraine as is the United States in the international context. After we have Moldova and Romania. Both Moldova and Romania have a presidential election in 2024. Romania has also a legislative election. US has a presidential election in 2024. If I'm looking on the figures in the German politics, I see Alternative für Deutschland becoming the second strongest party in Germany. I don't know if it is right or not. They are somewhere at 20%. Compared to a population of 80 million people, 20% is like 16 million, almost the whole population of Romania, which is terrifying. And I want to ask you, what do you think is the worst case scenario for 2024?
Let me jump in just to save a little bit, Ambassador here. I said that I'm on the positive side of the story this afternoon, and I'd like you had actually a lot of questions included in one question. So you mentioned also the role of the Germany in relation with an extended Black Sea region, in relation with Ukraine and others, and I will refer to this primarily. So I will let the hard part for you, Ambassador. Sorry. Actually. I said in my initial remarks how important Zeitenwende changed and adapted the German defense and security. And I have to add one more thing, that Zeitenwende helped narrowing down the threat perception between how we in the East and Germany saw the threats coming from the East. So I think this is an exceptional thing that Zeitenwende did. Moreover, Zeitenwende acknowledged very clearly that the threat of the conventional war in Europe is very much real. So again, comparing Germany 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know, and taking Germany today, this is we have to see, we have to acknowledge a huge difference. And I said that there are still persistent questions. 2%. 2% for defense is exceptional, but you know that I will play, you know. Now, I just want to recall you that in a wider effort to transform European defense, 2% may not suffice. You know that in NATO, our leaders took the decision very recently that 2% is the lower limit right now today, because defense is very, very much important. Deterrence and defense, yes. The contribution in Lithuania, the contribution in Slovakia to the Belter Group, the contribution to the air policing in Romania, impressing changes, but I still think these are not equaling German potential. So there are a lot of things to do. And the Black Sea, coming back to the Black Sea, because, you know, I cannot but to refer to the Black Sea. Romania would like to see a more ambitious language in the fundamental documents that I have referred to in Berlin to the Black Sea. And we believe that in assuming this special responsibility for European security, Germany cannot omit, cannot neglect, cannot be focused more on the security situation in the Black Sea, generally speaking. And you mentioned a couple of times here the importance of finally equipping Bundeswehr appropriately. And the issue with the defense budget, yes, we are talking about an important amount of funds, but again, 2% may not suffice for the potential that Germany has. In relation with Ukraine, I cannot but to say once more, and you said yourself, how important Germany's commitment towards Ukraine is. It's absolutely fabulous. And I would like to say 1 minute more how important Germany is, because, you know, I said I'm very positive this afternoon, advocating Germany's role, how important Germany's role is in different initiatives in defense and security. You have mentioned European rapid deployment capacity. I will mention European Sky Shield. I will mention framework nation concept, and I could continue. So I think we are on a good track, but we would like to see more German commitment towards the eastern flank, towards the Black Sea, and of course, towards Ukraine.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Let me just address an answer to the final question of our participant. It's impossible for an ambassador to make comments about the domestic affairs and about elections. So, in a sense, I think that Deputy Minister kind of diplomatically intervened, not only to answer to His Excellency, but also to answer to you. But now I made it explicit. So let me say that we have about 10 minutes left. That clock is a little bit misleading. And I just wanted, I will give you the floor just to say that we focused very much on Germany and of what this means as such, this Zeitenwende, this turning point. But I think we should also answer the question, what will this mean for the European Union? And because Deputy Minister approached the issue of the Black Sea, we have to see that as long as we have the candidacy of Ukraine with the and of Moldova with the prospect of beginning negotiations with the new status of candidacy, of course, to be finally approved in the Council. Now the Black Sea is becoming a European Union issue. So we need to think about that. And if you want to comment later on, but then let me give the floor to Mr. Katsoulis.
Thank you very much, Liliana. A very short answer to the worst case scenario. 15%, 25%, we will see in the coming elections, that will vote for populists offering them easy solutions. We're going back to the past, having the old Russian-German relations, so on and so forth. But there's no majority for that. So we will see the resilience of Germany tested, and we will also see the rest of the resilience in Europe tested in the elections next year. And we need to make the case for the changes that we're doing right now. And that is Scholz doing, and I disagree fundamentally with the Scholzing point, because Timothy Garton Ash invented that word. We don't use it in Germany. But the point is, if you want to take Germans on board, you don't make rash decisions. And that's why he proceeds so very slowly from an outside point of view. Thank you.
Thank you. Karlis Bukowski.
Yes, also very shortly on the question worst case scenario for 2024, omitting all the violence and everything else that could be the worst case scenarios, and speaking only about the elections. Donald Trump, of course, yes, but kind of history shows that Trump won, Trump period won. We saw the checks and balances in the U.S. being in place, so I'm kind of hoping that then, in case of that, then also the checks and balances is going to work for the second term, if he gets elected. But I think one more election which was forgotten, and I think that would cause an absolute chaos if Russia suddenly meddles in European Parliament elections. It hasn't been doing so far, somewhat symbolizing that European Parliament is not seen as that important, but actually European Parliament is pretty much important. If we look at the co-decision-making procedures, with 80% of the decision made there, with the declarations on foreign policy, with the support or this and that policy, and also because of the Spitzenkandidaten. So it's actually one of those things which I think we haven't been fully thinking through, that elections and governments established, uneasy governments established in the European Union countries or in partner countries, we tend to learn how to live with that. But it would be quite a surprising moment if we suddenly would have a European Parliament which is suddenly anti-Ukrainian or anti-European or somewhat very, very different what it is now, because that would have a downward spiral in my mind quite a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much for pointing this out. So let me offer the floor to Ambassador Gebauer to make comments about what was said so far, and particularly on Germany-EU, if you can comment.
Yes.
Zeitenwende in the European Union.
In the EU, I think one element of this Zeitenwende of what we see as a new Russian threat, of course, is the better understanding to close the ranks, meaning enlargement. I think this has been seen, Germany has been supportive of enlargement in general anyhow, but I think overall in the European Union it's a much stronger support to fill the gaps that is the Western Balkans and as well as the Eastern Partnership countries, the association trio. So in that sense, we have taken important steps, but at the same time, and that's just one aspect I want to highlight this point, we have come to a better understanding in the EU in general. I think that just enlarging will not do the trick. It might just weaken the EU. So we must make ourselves stronger in our decision-making procedures, in our internal structures, and there are a number of debates going on right now, which is very important because we have to be ready. Just enlarging will not help us any. It will do damage if we are not able to adapt our way of moving ahead in the EU. A number of great ideas on the table. I think this is where we need to work together in the EU as well. But just that maybe on the EU point, given the limited time, I'll pass the floor back. And
well, thank you very much for your comments. I will kind of make reference a little bit, just 2 minutes, to what was said today about the importance of Germany, of the European Union, and of us allies, NATO allies, not only to focus laser-wise, but kind of looking a little bit looking at the bigger picture. And from this viewpoint, I think that leadership is needed in European Union. Leadership is needed to coordinate enlargement not only eastwards, but also to the Balkans. And that might be as big a challenge as eastwards. So I trust and I hope that Germany will play a leading role in this process of the European Union reshaping itself, because we cannot go further without being reshaped. And reshaped in a consensus way. And we know that we have enemies who are trying to erode this consensus, and they have they built means during the years that they are trying to erode our societies from within. So I hope and I trust. Please.
Maybe if I can quickly take up what you said for a bit of a general remark. Again, I think it's natural for Germany, being the biggest EU country, to have to raise the most expectations, and it is right, and we want to live up to them. But we won't be successful unless we all work together. What I see in the recent years, I dare say, is a tendency of a number of EU partners and/or allies to sort of tend to block things, because of course if you have the need for an unanimous vote, you can always raise your hand. Countries often make use of these veto possibilities for very bilateral or national reasons. And it's a very effective tool. It seems to be a very effective tool because you annoy everybody else, and if you can't move ahead, you will always get something out of it. This is the recipe for destruction of all alliances and unions. And I can only if I have one ask as a German ambassador here when it comes to European expectations vis-à-vis Germany, so turning around German expectations to Europe, let's leave that aside. Let's concentrate on finding compromises and working together, because we will again kill all alliances and unions if we continue to block one another. Romania is a shining example from a German perspective for doing it always in a very constructive way. Romania is never blocking anything. Romania is never boycotting anything or vetoing anything, always focusing on finding a compromise. And I think I said it before, just let me say again, we need more Romanias in the European Union to move ahead. So thanks for
Thank you
that.
very much. 10 seconds.
10 seconds. I think it's important, Germany, to mobilize, if you like, the other member states to join important initiatives in defense and security. And I see Germany together with France as the engines of the EU traveling towards more convergence, towards more integration in security and defense, because there are a lot of fields in which we need an European common answer. And you know what I'm talking about: cyber, space, military mobility, and so on. And by the way, we had in Berlin the NATO Cyber First Annual Conference. So thank you very
much for your intervention. Please, let's give a round of applause to this exceptional panel. Thank you.